Iran has got a reformist president, as low-profile moderate Masoud Pezeshkian has won the country's runoff presidential vote, defeating the ultra-conservative Saeed Jalili by over 3 million votes. According to Iran's Interior Ministry, Pezeshkian secured over 16 million ballots, while Saeed Jalili got more than 13 million votes. Now, Iran has over 61 million eligible voters, but around 30 million ballots were cast in the runoff election, and the voter turnout stood at 49.8%.
From the total votes of all polling stations inside and outside the country, the number of votes cast is 30.5 million, out of which Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian got 16.3 million votes and Mr. Saeed Jalili got 13.5 million votes. And according to this, Mr. Masoud Pezeshkian is introduced as the elected president in the 14th presidential election of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Now, after his victory, Iran president-elect has said he will extend hand of friendship to everyone. He also said, I quote unquote, "We are people of this country. We should use everyone for the progress of the country." The 69-year-old Masoud Pezeshkian is a former heart surgeon who has been pushing for change in the country without radically challenging the system run by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. During his election campaign to replace the late President Ibrahim Raisi, Pezeshkian aligned himself with other moderate and reformist figures and promised an end to Iran's isolation from the world, calling for the renewal of the 2015 nuclear deal. Now, in 2011, Pezeshkian registered to run for president but withdrew his candidacy. In 2021, he found himself and other prominent candidates barred from running by authorities, allowing an easy win for Raisi. Now, Pezeshkian entered politics first as Iran's deputy health minister and later as the health minister under the administration of reformist president Mohammad Khatami. In 2006, Pezeshkian was elected as a lawmaker representing Tabriz. He later served as a deputy parliament speaker. However, the next president is not expected to usher in any major policy shift on Iran's nuclear program or support for militia groups across West Asia, since the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei calls all the shots on top state matters. However, the president can influence the tone of Iran's domestic and foreign policy. Insiders say Khamenei is keen on a loyal and compliant president who can assure a smooth eventual succession to his successor. For more on this, we are now being joined by Abbas Aslani, who is a senior research fellow at the Center for Middle East Strategic Studies and a journalist. Welcome to the show. First, with the reformist leader Masoud Pezeshkian winning the Iranian polls after 20 years, do you see any shift in the working relation with Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei?
As you said, that this has been after, since 2005, this is the first time that the country is seeing a reformist president. And this is quite significant because at this level of turnout, it is mostly expected that we could have a conservative president. But I think this is quite a new norm that we have a reformist, candidate winning the election at this turnout, which is quite 50%. Pezeshkian has had promises specifically on foreign policy, meaning engagement with the global countries, as well as trying to negotiate with the Western states in order to lift the sanctions. And but in the meantime, these are the decisions not only made by the president, merely, but also in a framework that comprises of the Supreme National Security Council, other institutions, as well as it is, with the and the leader. Pezeshkian in the political campaign said that, he was critical of the policies of the system. However, he said that he will be acting within the framework envisioned by the leaders. So he also, so far he has stressed unity among different factions in the country, saying that the foreign policy begins at home. But this doesn't mean that there will be no rivalry between reformists and conservatives in future. As customary, it is expected to happen, and this could make it a bit difficult for him to, govern the government. However, I think he will try to reach out to different factions in order to pave the way for further cooperation in order to resolve issues at home, including the economic difficulties in relation to the daily lives of the people, and in order to engage further with regional countries as well as those beyond the region.
Interesting that you speak of countries beyond the region as well. That brings me to my next question. How does this election of the new president bode for the West and the crisis in West Asia?
Well, I think most of those engagements will be focused on the region, meaning the neighboring countries and those in the West Asia. This was the policy that was pursued by the late President Ibrahim Raisi, and I think this policy is expected to continue under the reformist president as well. When he attended a political roundtable at Iranian state TV, he tried to bring former Iranian foreign minister, who was the architect of the 2015 nuclear deal, as well as Iran's former ambassador to Russia, meaning that he is interested in engage, generally with the global countries, and meanwhile that he will not ignore those Eastern powers. Iran's look east policy somehow these days is being argued in the country as a strategic perspective rather a tactical one. So I think the engagement with the neighboring countries, with the Eastern powers, including China and Russia, as well as countries like India, is expected to continue and expand. However, how much chance we can see for a serious and meaningful engagement with European states and the United States is yet uncertain. However, this also depends on the policies from the side of those countries. I think this can begin by somehow talking on the terms of the nuclear deal, whether they can revive it or not. And with the United States, it's most expected to be focused on containing the tensions and managing the tensions. When it comes to the issue of the rapprochement, this seems a bit unlikely today. And that's also a question that who will be the next president in the United States, whether Joe Biden or Donald Trump, that's the question. And depending on who is the president in that country, I think this might impact the course of the interaction between the two sides.
What do you have to say about the argument given by the West that the election of a reformist president may actually bode not so well for Iran's domestic policy, because this may as well have legitimized the current state of affairs?
The impact that we might be seeing as a result of a reformist candidate winning the presidency can be, mostly the competition and rivalry among reformists and the conservatives. This rivalry has all along existed, always. But, with a new reformist president, this might somehow fuel that competition. So I don't think that, this will create a kind of crisis or chaos. This is something normal. You can see that this kind of competition taking place between different parties in other countries as well. But whether they will be able to somehow reach a kind of, let's say, consensus on major and grand issues that exist in the domestic politics, which is mostly focused on resolving the economic people in the country. And that in some ways is being viewed in relation to the foreign policy related issues, which is to negotiate, to lift the sanctions. And I think, the experience has shown that, despite the rivalry and competition, there could be chances for that kind of, consensus despite some,
Right.
differences in order to resolve things out.
Okay, I thank you very much, Abbas Aslani, for giving us your keen insights.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.